Welcome to the Optimize Your Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Binek, and today I had the pleasure to interview Steven Schneider. We talked all about bottom of funnel blog content and how that can be factored in to your evergreen PPC campaign approach. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Steven, thanks so much for being on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks, Ian. Excited to be here.
I'm more excited. Honestly, it's a great day so far. Just beautiful sunny day. You were just telling me about how you like to operate in the cave of your house. So we were a little different in that aspect, but I'm really excited to talk about SEO today, which is for any of our listeners, they're primarily in the PPC space. So it's really exciting to kind of bridge the gap a little bit in terms of like the organic efforts that could be happening in the background of PPC campaigns. So, Steven, we have a lot to talk about. Are you excited?
Yeah. This will be a fun one for me. I feel like I don't get to, dabble in the PPC world very often, so it'll be kind of a good blend of both worlds, as you were saying. So yeah, let's get into it.
Awesome. So, Steven, we're going to be talking about blogs primarily and how they drive bottom of funnel traffic that converts visitors to MQLs, which is such an important thing that, I think a lot of people think it's dead or it doesn't exist anymore. You can't do blogging to get leads, but you're here to prove us wrong. So we can get into that maybe in a second, but I want to start with like a pretty pressing question in a lot of people's minds, or at least agency owners' minds, which is, what's the hardest part about SEO in 2024, Steven?
Loaded question. I think the biggest thing is that we're seeing is that the quality threshold is just like, it's jumping by leaps and bounds every year or every quarter. Especially with how AI is being introduced into the game, it's really important to make sure that your site is abiding by all the EAT, acronym guidelines and the trust metrics and branding, authority, and then the content has to be conversational, but it also has to be informative. And it's like and so
Yeah.
the list continues on. And now you look back at it, and it's like you kind of have a checklist of a bare minimum, what feels like 1,000 items. And so and we're always constantly trying to cycle in new ways to showcase authority and hire, level up the quality and hire people who can speak, fluently on various topics. So, yeah, I mean, it's never an easy thing, but it's part of the game. It's fun.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway is that there's SEO's been around for decades now, and there are the people that started with SEO. They were literally first movers. They were showing up page one of Google, right? Like 20 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago, right? Like it's that long ago. And those people have their methods and ways of doing things, and they've progressed over time. And then you've had like these younger generations that have gotten in and they've had new strategies and techniques. All these algorithm changes are obviously changing things, but I feel like everything that started 30 years ago is still kind of being preached today, which you kind of mentioned, like the EAT and the trust stuff, which, by the way, my audience is not going to know like what EAT means. So if you want to like expand on that a little bit, that might be really helpful for them.
Yeah, of course. So EAT is an acronym. It's double EAT. It stands for your experience, the expertise, the authoritativeness, and the trustworthiness that your website or a single page kind of evokes when people read it or visit it. So, really just making sure that it, abides by, like, if it's a blog, like, do you have an author bio? Does the bio represent someone who's knowledgeable on the topic? Does it have a date of publication? What about a date of last update? Like all these little things that we kind of glance over as readers. But if you're in SEO or you own a website or you're trying to drive traffic and display your authority, they kind of subtly add to the mix of the entire user experience.
Absolutely. And I think that's the trust factor, right? You don't want a really small website that's coming across as this large enterprise company and they have fake people writing blogs and things like that. That's not going to promote trust and And so that's sort of like something it sounds like that Google's been implementing in their algorithm to influence the higher page rankings. But I mean, the same could be kind of said for PPC as well. If you're gonna put content on your landing page that you're showing ads or pushing ads to, there's sort of like this ad SEO that happens as well, where you have the top 3 ad spots and the bottom 3 ad spots on page one. And quite honestly, like, no one looks at the bottom 3 ad spots. And so you have to be in the top 3, which means you have to have great landing page experiences. That matters actually a lot with your ad campaigns. So
Yeah, I
cool.
mean,
I think,
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that we're finding more and more that UX is the kind of staple of websites. And I think that, as PPC and, SEO strategists kind of try to figure out what is the next thing, it's always going to be, if your website or the landing page feels like it was built in 1995, like it's just not going to convert. So keep that in mind.
yeah, no. I mean, it's funny. There's a fine line balance, which is just like a little anecdote that I've had with, some of the clients that, we don't do the landing pages, we don't build the websites, but sometimes they'll ask you like, well, aren't the enterprise companies on WordPress or on these older website builders? So we should build our website on these older website builders, which and make it look old. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, is that a viable strategy? Like, I'm not really
No,
like the kind of, yeah, I don't think it is, right? Like, that sounds
no.
wrong.
I mean, like WordPress is old in the fact that it has been around, but it's not old as in that it's like the old dog that's on its last leg. It's used because it's used. It's kind of like it's the kind of the it's just trusted. It's easy to use. It's versatile. You can still have a great looking site that functions well and operates well and is fast and all the kind of checklists of what a good website means, and it's on WordPress. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool, Steven. So nice introduction. SEO is hard. 2024. A lot of stuff involved.
To say the least.
Yeah. So the topic we really want to get into is bottom of funnel traffic, and also along the same lines of like, how are you getting that bottom of funnel traffic from blogs? But before we talk about that, let's just talk about bottom of funnel traffic. Like, explain it to me as if I was a child. Like, how would you explain that to someone?
Yeah, so if you were to picture a funnel, the top of the funnel would be kind of like the people who are just starting to, you know, learn about the brand, become interested in the brand, ask questions, very high level interest, but no intent to buy, not even close to buying. As the customer journey evolves, they eventually move through the funnel and they get closer to the bottom. And the bottom of the funnel is where the people are ready to buy, they're ready to take action, whether that means sign up for a service, sign up for a free trial, downloading a lead magnet, whatever that might look like in terms of actually converting from a browser into a buyer. And we say buyer kind of as an umbrella term, as it's download or sign up, whatever you want to call it. But it's wherever someone actually takes the leap to move forward and engage with the brand beyond just reading content.
All right. Good introduction. Yeah. And it's the same for PPC as well. These terms like bottom of funnel, middle of funnel, top of funnel all relate to basically anything in the marketing space. So as we have marketers that listen to this, but then there are also people that are not marketers. They're maybe heavy in product. And so it's nice to just kind of set some benchmarks there in terms of what they can expect here. So we're talking about people that are raising their hand saying, please contact me. So how do you write, or, actually before we say how, but what are the biggest mistakes you see with people that are writing these bottom of funnel articles? And yeah, what are the biggest mistakes, I guess, that you see from people that are writing these?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, I mean, from any article, is that people don't, they try to write an article as if they're writing it for Google and the fact that they want it to rank without realizing that there's people engaging. Like these are, analytics are analytics, but at the end of the day, that's each analytic metric is an actual person, it's a human. And so the more that we can write in conversational tones and as if you and I are talking right now, it's going to convert way better.
Yeah.
For example, like in SEO, we've gradually moved away from what's called keyword stuffing, where people would try to stuff and embed a lot of extra keywords, thinking that would trick Google, thinking that it would increase their page ranking over time. But really, it's just an awful experience for the user. Like at the end of the day, no one wants to talk about that. Like, for example, you and I are discussing SEO, but you don't hear me saying SEO every other word of the sentence. Like it's just kind
Yeah.
of this implied conversational, discussion, and that's how your content should be too. If we're talking about the best winter jackets of the year, every sentence shouldn't have the word winter jacket in it. It's assumed. So that's the biggest thing I think with all content is that you, people are much smarter than you think they are. They understand what you're talking about, and if you just actually write like you're speaking, it's going to convert way better. And that kind of leads into like what works well for bottom of funnel content is you treat that almost like just a regular relationship or engagement as if you're on the phone with them, as if I'm talking to them right now. And then over time, that content just translates and it's almost like they're just reading it straight from you. But when it starts becoming robotic and it starts feeling like it was written for AI or by AI, you just go lose them.
Yeah. And you sort of mentioned it at the beginning was this there's sort of there's this negative feedback loop that's happening in organizations right now where they care about the metrics. Everyone wants to know the metrics. And because that is so important, people are, or at least the lower level specialists, maybe less experienced folks, not like you who's been in the consulting world for a long time. Like these people are writing for Google because they need to get a lot of clicks and they need to have a high click-through rate on some of these specific search queries that people are searching for. And so that negative feedback loop is making content worse, which means that you have these leading indicators of, hey, I got a good click-through rate, but then you don't have the lagging indicators of, hey, this person actually converted and turned into a lead. But for a lot of organizations, from my understanding at least, is that that's enough for them to say, oh, we got to keep doing this. Let's just double down our efforts. And I mean, maybe you'll get a few leads here and there, but I don't know if it's really like, it's just the quality is not there, right? You have the
Yeah,
quantity of crap, but you're not going to get like a good quality out of that. So it
yeah,
sounds like that's
exactly.
the biggest problem.
Yeah, and I think that, traffic is so sexy and people are so blinded by so much traffic. Like the more traffic we get, it's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel is what people think it is. Where if you just
Yeah.
have a ton of traffic, you can do whatever you want with it, which isn't the case. So each keyword that we target from a blog article or a secondary keyword or whatever you're looking at it has a certain intent behind it. So if we add a bunch of top of funnel content and you're going to have a ton of traffic, that traffic is arguably meaningless to some degree
Yeah.
unless you're just totally in it for brand awareness, and that's fine. Like people come to us and they're like, yo, I don't care about leads right now, like just grow the brand. We're like, perfect. um, but at the same kind of flip the script on that, and we'll go after a keyword that has 30 to 50 monthly searches, not a lot by any means, but those 30 to 50 monthly searches are like pretty high conversion rate. Like it's a very high intent to move forward with some sort of decision or move forward with some sort of interest on behalf of the brand. And so that's a common conversation that we have to have is the trade-off between how much traffic do you want versus how much relevant high intent traffic do you want.
Absolutely. And in the PPC world, it's the same thing
Yeah.
that I see, right? I mean, you can have bottom of funnel Google Ads campaigns, but you can't have both. I want 10,000 clicks this month and I want like high quality leads, because at the end of the day, like you're talking about these really high intent searches, like if there's 4 or 5 words in this search query, it's very specific. So if you have
Yeah.
a landing page that's talking about that specific query and 50 people search it every month, yeah, it's only 50 people, but that's 50 shots. That's basically 50 like cold call pitches to people that are already warmed up and in the market of buying.
Right.
So like that's what the mistake is made in the PPC world is people want a lot of clicks, so they'll throw in a few like broader terms into that campaign, which not advised at all. I definitely advise putting it in a different campaign, right? But still, a lot of organizations, specialists will do this, and so they'll get all those clicks, and then those keywords that are really broad will eat up the budget, and that budget won't even go to the lower funnel terms, and then no one's literally like that term, you're not showing up in the top 3 ad spots anymore because your budget's gone. And Google's like, well, we'll take your money, thank you, but you're not going to get the leads. You'll get a bunch of clicks, but it's not what you wanted. So yeah, it exists in both worlds, PPC and SEO. That's a big problem.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's definitely one of those things where, as a site owner too, as someone who's dabbled in SEO for their own companies, it's a hard trade-off because, on those, and this is what we always tell clients too, is that if you are going after top of funnel or mid funnel content, put a lead magnet on there, put an exit intent pop-up on there, put something that would at least put that customer into a nurture sequence and work them closer to the bottom of funnel content. So it's very unlikely that, if you're selling a high ticket service or a high ticket offer, someone's going to read a blog and just immediately be like, yep, this is the best blog in the world. This is exactly what I need. Here's my credit card. Like,
Yeah.
in a perfect world, that would be awesome, but it's just not how it works. So a lot of what we have to do is based on education around, do you guys have a newsletter set up? Do you have CTAs in there to convert people? What are your lead magnets? How often are those being downloaded? Have they been updated? Like, there's a lot of extra steps involved beyond just like write article, optimize SEO, get traffic. Like, that's like step 6 of 10.
Yeah. Yeah, we won't really delve too much more. I feel like in the B2B buying journey, we can obviously like discuss it a little bit, but we've had a couple episodes. We had Tass Bobber on the
Oh yeah, I
podcast
know
a
Taz
few weeks
well.
ago.
She's
Yeah,
great.
Tass is awesome. She knows all about that. That episode was really good for me. I learned a lot, and I'm sure anyone that's listened to it has as well. But I mean, the B2B buying journey is not linear like
Right.
that. It's very convoluted. So yeah, keeping that in mind too when you're writing content and running ads makes sense. Steven, why is it still important to have a good writer to lead your SEO efforts? Which we've kind of like beat around the bush here, but let's be blatant here. Why is it important?
I think one of them is the fact, it kind of leads back to what I was saying about conversational tones, good gauge engagement, just making sure that the writer knows the audience, and can just have a very natural, fluid conversation with that audience, almost organically as if they're talking. The other thing too is I think that it just really stands the test of time right now with how much everyone is leaning into AI. Especially if you have an AI content, or if you're writing an article and you're using AI to write a paragraph or to help you format something, and they end up rewording it, they're going to add in words that we don't use. It's just like, it's stuff that's, you look at it and you're like, no one would ever talk like this. And that's a
Yeah.
really big turnoff.
Yeah. No. Okay. So follow-up question with that is there's the conversational tone. You wanted to speak sort of like you wanted to speak like the brand. The brand has a voice. And the question really is, how valuable is it that all of your bottom of funnel blogs sound the same? It sounds like your friend that's talking to you. Like, how important is that?
It depends, which I feel like is kind of an
Okay.
SEO cop out. But what I mean
Sure.
by
Okay.
that is the you want everything to be consistent from a branding perspective at the end of the day. Like, I would say that, your brand should be consistent because that's how brands work. That's what good brands thrive on.
Mhm.
But if you're looking at a comparison of article A versus article B in a vacuum, the need for those to be like above a 90% threshold in terms of the similarity of tone and styling and all that sort of stuff is an arbitrary request, because the likeliness of someone going from that topic to the other topic is very low. So like, if I'm
Mm.
reading a bottom of funnel article about said topic, I'm not going to go read this other topic because they're two completely unrelated things. And I'm focused on this thing. I'm not focused on that thing. So if someone jumps around your content, they're a very, very dedicated to the brand to begin with, which is awesome. But at the end of the day, like, those who are in that bottom of funnel mindset are not gonna, unless it's like some sort of like, maybe they're REI and they're, buying a bunch of like gear or something like that. I think it's definitely situational, but um, it's a very rare chance that people will bounce around reading other content. Like, they're on a path, they're on a mission, they have one objective in mind, and it's not to go read more blogs.
Sure. So that journey may look like read the blog, one blog, and then they go to the pricing page or the comparison page.
Right?
Um, okay. That makes sense. I think I was actually curious because I really thought potentially that, yeah, you got the related blogs on maybe on the right hand side or left hand side or the bottom of the blog, right? And I thought perhaps they would click in and read another one, but I don't know.
The
Thinking
goal
about
is in our in our career, it's actually ill-advised if they do that. It's not a
oh,
best practice because it's a distraction. So if they are on a mission and you're trying to get them to sign up for a lead magnet or book a call or whatever the action is, and they start looking at other blogs, well, now they're on a different mindset. They're not actually chasing the carrot on the stick anymore. They're elsewhere. So like when we look at blogs as part of our UX audit, we tell people to push that stuff down to the bottom. Because it's like you want related content at the bottom. If no one's actually going to read it top to bottom, like no one's reading a
yeah.
blog word for word. And so if you're scrolling and you happen to lose them at some point in the article and they go, ooh, shiny object, and they click away, well, you just kind of shot yourself in the foot. So
That's so interesting. Even though they're still in your ecosystem, you've got the pixel on, let's look at the ad perspective here. You got the pixel on the
yeah,
website. You can see they visited certain blog pages, right? Like you wouldn't, I mean, it's probably a secondary objective is to get them to read more because maybe they need to self-qualify a little bit more. But what you're saying is it's just not really like what you want. You want them to go to that pricing page like right after they read the blog, right? That's kind of what it sounds like.
at least from like a maybe not a bottom of funnel perspective, like pricing is almost one more step.
Okay.
It depends on like each brand's goals too. So like, it's sometimes it's like book a discovery call to learn more if it's like a service-based company, or maybe there's like a CTA in the content that says sign up for a free trial, and maybe that's what it's based on. But um, and like those are easy to embed site wide. Maybe it's like insert this CTA above the first H2 of every blog. Like that's somewhat easy to systematically roll out. But
Hmm.
um, the less you can reduce the amount of clicks, the fewer clicks reduces risk, which increases your chances of conversion. Is how I look at that.
That makes sense. That okay, I'm following you now. I'm following you now. And it's actually similar in PPC.
Yeah,
The only difference actually is that you literally remove the navigation bar
yeah.
with a paid ad, or at least from a Google ad. Or it's a best practice, which I really don't like to throw that word around because I think if you follow too many best practices, then you're just mediocre at best because everyone's following best practices. So
There's no reason
I
to reinvent the wheel, Ian. That's okay.
that's fair. It's fair. But yeah, I mean, with PPC, you're removing the nav bar, and honestly, in all your sections, like all the CTOs go to the lead magnet or the contact us or
Yeah.
the schedule a call. Right now, like there is some research to prove that having those links at the bottom makes sense because I think, contrary to SEO and blogging, people will go to the bottom of a landing
Hmm.
page from ads and they will be like, well, I don't feel like I know enough. So they will click to another page. And so
Oh yeah,
having at least,
footers are the best places that you can embed anything. If you're gonna do like whether it's SEO, CTAs, PPC, like that's footers
yeah,
people will always pay attention to, which is weird, but yeah.
yeah, it works though. I mean, like, think about it though. I mean, you're not going to like scrolling, like, there's literally a physical exertion, which I know it's not a lot, but scrolling back up to the like top of a website page, like, when do you ever do that on someone, like some random website, right? Like, you never
Well,
do.
yeah, and like everyone knows that the good stuff is at the bottom. So it's kind of like this weird, like unspoken fallacy that people know that like if you need like quick information or if you're looking for, you know, information about an affiliate program, say you're an influencer, it's like where's it going to be? Footer. Like no one's
Yeah.
putting that on their top nav. It's all this extra stuff that's still important, but it's not super important.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny. Um, okay, so Steven, let's get into two spicy questions, hot topics, really. The first one's about misconceptions about blogging. So, what would you say to the people that say blogging is dead and that instead you should start with like a video first and then go into blogging later? Like, what are your thoughts around that topic? I know that the meme of, oh, like X is dead is really it's getting like really old at this point, but I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it depends on the brand, and I think it depends on what their goals are. Blogging is not for everyone. That's fine. Like it's not if you are a company that thrives on social and influencers and TikTok and that sort of content, like you should be producing as much content as it possibly can around those channels and that platform. Don't do blogs. Like that's stupid. Um, but if you're in a niche that has a bunch of content that is more in depth and people need to read about certain topics before, making decisions around certain things, blogs are a good way. The other thing I would say too is that blogs are a really, really good way to strengthen your brand overall because you're essentially increasing your topical authority on that subject. So like the best kind of way I always like to explain it is like think about an iceberg. And you have this image of your iceberg, whatever's above the water, which is going to be like your home page, your about page, your contact page, etc. But beyond that, you have this massive piece of ice below the water that no one sees. And that is really the depth of your site. And so the bigger your blog is, the more keywords you have around that niche and around your expertise and around all this content that shows Google, hey, look how much I know my stuff. Look how many topics I have covering this one thing. Look how good I've talked about it. Look how well versed I am in this niche. And Google picks up on that. So over time, you kind of develop this sense of, hey, I'm an expert, show my content over those who are not. And so aside from bottom of funnel and mid funnel pieces of content having a direct correlation to lead magnets or conversions, it's a really good way to build your brand and kind of like look at the long term time horizon of how you're standing a
Mhm.
chance on Google.
Yeah, no, I think as long as you're willing to commit to that year or forever process, really, I mean, it's like your
Yeah.
business is brand over years. As long as you're willing to, at least like iteratively add new blogs that are quality, and then just, I don't even want to say you have to add new blogs all the time. I think it's really just like also optimizing them and repurposing them, because if you write it really well the first time and it really is truly bottom of funnel and the whole offer and the differentiation of the business doesn't change that much, then like theoretically you don't really need to change the layout and the wording of that blog. It sounds like it's just this great sales enablement tool that you don't need to have a salesperson really like share. It's just there on the website that people will see and find through the search. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like the iceberg approach. I think that's key.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong though, you should definitely still update your content every 6 to 12 months. But like, when it comes to that sort of stuff, like we're looking at informational topics that are still bottom of funnel that don't necessarily, enable the sales team, but they at least put you on the map in front of your ICP. And that is what is almost deemed as bottom of funnel from like an SEO content perspective.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, Stephen. So the second spicy question is about AI, which we touched upon just a second, like probably 20 minutes ago, but I want to get a little bit more in depth here, which is what are your thoughts on it? How are you using AI with your blog writing, especially for some clients that maybe you're not like the SME of, like a subject matter expert of? Like, how do you use AI strategically where it's not just pumping out crap, like, and or are you not using it at all? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we're not using AI for any content generation at all. We're 100% human written, 100% human edited. I look at AI as a tool, and I think that that's at least our risk threshold at this time. There's a lot up in the air still around how Google is treating AI content. I know some people can do it well, and others are kind of rolling the dice.
Yeah.
And so, from that sense, we're not willing to jeopardize our clients' brands by trying to shave a couple extra, you know, corners off of their
Yeah.
strategy. We have a pretty good track record of doing it for our own businesses, and now it's kind of the first time where we can put our strategy to the test for other clients and help them kind of see the same results that we've seen. And so for that reason, like I say, like there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. Like SEO just takes a long time, and if you're trying to shave some time off of that, like look at what happened with Black Hat SEO with link building. Like that got punished pretty hard. What do you think's gonna happen with AI content? Like those who usually try to cheat or do it
Yeah.
without adhering to quality can feel the wrath. Live and die by Google.
Yeah, you don't want to be at their mercy, really. Like as long as you're following the EAT guidelines, you're doing it right and you really don't have any risk of being penalized.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may pump out like I mean, even if we're just speaking liberally here, like half as much content or even like just a quarter as much content, but it's all really high quality and you know that it'll continue to be optimized in the future and will drive traffic versus you pump out maybe 75% more content, but it only lasts for 6 months because then at the end of the year, Google changes the algorithm and they say, hey, like this content sucks and we hate it. And you just fall in that bucket. So yeah, you don't
Yeah.
want to be at their mercy there for sure.
Yeah. There's
I
nothing worse than losing time.
Yeah, I mean, especially because you're investing, like as a client, you're investing in a service that is traditionally takes a little bit longer to see
Yeah.
results from. Yeah, and I think honestly, I think Google Ads are kind of going in the direction of it takes a little bit of time to see results now too. You used to be able to just turn things on and get leads in 30 days, but I don't know. I think with like how competitive it's getting, it almost makes more sense to run those Google ads for the top of funnel and the middle of funnel for these like cheaper terms. No one's bidding on these. As long as you have the right kind of match types in place to make sure you're only showing up for certain kinds of queries or really specific ones, then it's not wasted ad spend. Yeah, you're spending a little bit of money there, but you're getting them in your ecosystem for retargeting ads later on. And then when they actually go back and type in those bottom of funnel queries, your blogs show up. Like the ones that they're already familiar with your brand because they clicked on an ad and it maybe led them to a resource or a blog that's higher up in the funnel. And then yeah, you have these bottom of funnel ones that are, traditionally speaking, would be very expensive to bid on, and now you just have organic content there, so it's free forever for you after it's built. So
Yeah.
yeah, makes perfect
100%.
sense.
Yeah. It's a nice kind of like symbiotic relationship where, and that's kind of the thing too, is like, I don't hate on the PPC people. I think that it's a great way to leverage both sides. Like SEO takes so long, and that's why it's such a grind for people to look at and be like, dang, I got to invest 6 months in this thing and I don't even know if it's going to work. It's like,
Yeah.
well, there's a pretty high chance it's going to work, but like you're not looking at it from a 6 month investment. Like from our side, the kind of the more around the education that we try to speak to is that, we're essentially building you a 6 month roadmap. But even if we work together for, say, 12 months and then we stop working together, you still own all that content. Like that is yours. It's still going to work. Like you now have that as like an asset for your site. But, from PPC standpoint, it's like you stop paying for ads, you stop getting that traffic. So I
Mhm.
think that they can work together, but the people who look at SEO and they're like, it just takes too long, it never works. It's like, but once it does, and it's there. So
Exactly. I think that was a great note to end on, Stephen. I feel like, we try to keep these conversations around 30 minutes. It's usually people's commute times or workout times. So, Stephen, I learned a lot. I think just marrying SEO and PPC together and trying to think about both of them strategically, which, like I just discussed, I think there's really good strategies for bottom of funnel, organic plays, and then there's great cheap strategies for middle of funnel, top of funnel, Google Ads plays, which is not, that's very much a hot topic. Not a hot topic, maybe a cold take. A lot of people don't like that, but I personally think it's like one of the smartest things you can do with your marketing budget. So, Steven,
absolutely.
thanks so much. This was a great conversation.
Thanks, Ian. This is great.
Before we finish, how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about Try SEO?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can find me there. You can just search my name, search for Trio SEO. You can Google me. I always joke that we're an SEO company, so if you just Google Trio SEO, we'll come up. So
That's a good flex. Very important.
yeah,
Awesome, Steven. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day and look forward to chatting soon.
thanks, Ian.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Optimize Your Marketing podcast. We post weekly on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Every Tuesday morning, you can expect an episode about AI, PPC, or SEO. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to leave it a 5-star rating or a thumbs up. It really helps me understand which kind of episodes you like the most so I can bring more of those to you. Until next time, I'll see you next week.